These days, the Super Bowl usually takes place in either the newest, most technologically advanced stadiums in the world, or just Florida, or the Superdome. Back in the day, however, that wasn't the case. All of the stadiums you'll see in this video are older than the Super Bowl itself, and are still going strong today, hosting college football. To be clear, I'm not going to be including NFL stadiums that are shared by a college team, just the fully fledged college stadiums. So here are the current college football stadiums that have hosted the Super Bowl. We'll start off with the host of the first ever Super Bowl in 1967, the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, home to the USC Trojans. The stadium is 100 years old this year, and in those 100 years it's achieved a lot, including hosting the Olympics twice. Despite renovations in recent years that have made some significant changes, especially to the southern side of the ground, it has stayed surprisingly true to its original design, considering it has been 100 years. Some parts of the stadium are actually protected from demolition, and I can see why. This end in particular is quite remarkable. In 1967, Green Bay beat Kansas City 35-10, and it went on to host it once more in 1973, where Miami beat Washington 14-7. Rice Stadium, Rice Owls. This stadium hosted just the one Super Bowl in 1974, where Miami beat Minnesota 24-7. 24-7, that has a certain ring to it. Perhaps we could start using it as shorthand for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because we haven't got time to be saying that full sentence, we've just got to keep moving. The most momentous event that occurred here actually has nothing to do with sport. It was the site of the famous JFK moon speech, where he said something like, we choose to go to the moon not because it's easy, but because we want to see if it really is made of cheese, as depicted in Wallace and Gromit. I am paraphrasing there, of course. Unlike the last one, the end zone seating clearly didn't have any historical significance, because they got rid of it at one end and replaced it with this performance center. Other than that though, it's not a million miles away from its 1974 design. Rose Bowl, UCLA Bruins. Well, the other two may have changed very little, but this simple bowl stadium is older than both of them and has changed even less. In fact, if we switch to black and white, it's like you're back in the early days of the stadium's life. You can even feel the polio in the air. and the secondhand smoke. Before it even hosted the Super Bowl, it was one of the most famous stadiums in the country, partially due to it hosting the Rose Bowl game. Hosting 5 Super Bowls only added to its notoriety. In 1977, the Raiders beat Minnesota 32-14. In 1980, Pittsburgh beat the Rams 31-19. In 1983, Washington beat Miami 27-17. 1987, the Giants beat them. In 1993, Dallas smashed Buffalo 52-17, and that was all she wrote. Stanford Stadium, Stanford Cardinal. This one is a bit different from the rest in that the stadium has been almost entirely rebuilt since its Super Bowl days, but it still counts as the same stadium. As you can see, back then it was an unconventional, I don't know, it's not a complete bowl, but it's not really a horseshoe layout either. It also had a track around the field. As you can see, it looks completely different nowadays. It's a double-tiered rectangular stadium. The seating is much closer to the field, so it's certainly better suited for football. It also just looks a whole lot better in my opinion. In its one and only Super Bowl, 1985, it was fittingly a Californian team that won. San Francisco beat Miami 38-16. This has been a very California-heavy video. Sun Devil Stadium, Arizona Sun Devils. It took until Super Bowl 30 for the event to make its way to Arizona, and it's been back a couple of times since. But this venue hosted it just once. That was the '96 Super Bowl. Cowboys 27, Steelers 17. The design has changed a little bit since then. As you can see, there used to be an upper deck that stretched its way around 3 sides of the field. There's only an upper deck along the sidelines now, so it is smaller, but it has no doubt improved since those days, as you'd expect. The stadium's best feature has been there since the start, however, and that is the location. The way it has been carved into the rocky hills is pretty spectacular, but not unique in college football. Oddly enough, this place is called the Sun Bowl. Sun and rocks go together, I guess? So, there you have it. I wonder if these stadiums will outlast the Super Bowl itself. Perhaps the XFL will grow in popularity to the point where the NFL is no longer... No, I couldn't do it. I couldn't finish that sentence. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, have a good one.